Alright, what's up guys? So I brought in Kelsey, she's a vocal coach, and she's gonna help us when we're talking about projecting our voice, go through some exercises.
When you're being like, na 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 na, like you would do in school, it's not the best way to sound, but it's actually really good for your projection and all that kind of stuff.
Do you wanna learn how to have that deep, sexy voice that just turns women on? During my journey with women, I've learned to properly express myself. My voice used to be a little bit high pitched, I was monotone, I used to mumble quite a bit. Many students have asked me through the years how I've been able to evolve, especially from my older videos, to develop the voice that I have now. Look, we've all read and heard the studies that your body language and your tone of your voice makes up majority of your communication. Yet it's often the missing part of seduction. It's responsible for that emotional roller coaster that you need to be able to put women on. I can't tell you how many times I've seen students implement almost perfect verbal game, have the best structure, know the exact thing to say at the right time, yet they're still not getting results. And that's because their tonality and expression are just completely off. And when they master it, they can have girls hanging off their every word. Even if they run out of things to say or don't know exactly what to do next, they can verbally captivate the girl just by understanding these principles that I'm about to share with you. Firstly, it's important to realize that you've been born with the vocal cords you have. They're fully developed and you can't magically change them. You can't suddenly have a completely different range of tone. However, even though you've been born with that instrument that is your voice, you can still learn to play it. You can optimize it in the best way possible. What I want to look at first is vocal projection, the ability to speak to a girl with richness and strength in your voice. This will ensure she sees you as confident and also she's able to actually hear you, especially in like a loud club and without shouting and like ruining your voice. I'm sure you've all had it where you've gone to the club and the next day you woke up and couldn't speak. So we want to have a strong voice without destroying it at the same time. A strong voice all starts with posture. And if you think about your voice as an instrument, we need all the working parts to be open and relaxed in order to create that projection and the resonance. Usually the mistakes students make are one of two things. They're either very like slouched over, they're used to being on the computer all day and they've got an obstruction. And if we think about your windpipe as a garden hose, the flow of water, every time you crunch it over and crinkle it, it's like a kink in a hose, and the air just doesn't move through very freely, and that's what causes trauma in your throat and a reduced projection of your voice. The second mistake I see are guys that overcorrect. They know that they need a good posture in order to look confident but also project their voice, and so I see them walking around the club stiff. They've got like a hyperextended back, their shoulders are super pressed out, their chest is tight, their neck, and even as I'm saying this, my voice sounds weird, right? And it's because you're not relaxed. You need to reduce tension throughout your body. And so doing that just the same way as being hunched over is gonna fuck it up. So how do we correct that? The first thing I want you to do is start being very consciously aware of how your body feels and how we can loosen it up and be more relaxed. So I wanna start from the head down. So when it comes to our neck is, think about it as super loose. When you push it from side to side, there shouldn't be tension there, right? Loosen your neck right up. And it should be, your head should just be sitting onto your neck, right? Now, if you notice that when you try to have good posture that your neck is clenched and tense and you get like, it feels sore, right? After an hour of trying to do this, you have like neck pain, then that's the problem. You want your head to just bounce, almost like a ball and socket, just bouncing on the top of your neck. So an exercise you can do is just yawn. That's gonna loosen up your larynx and your jaw and your throat. And as you do it, just lift your head back, right? Release all the tension and then come forward, right? And you essentially want your chin to be almost like parallel with the ground, but just move forward until you feel like it's just sitting on your head, sitting on your neck, sorry, without that tension there. So you can practice that now. There. And now head and neck should be in a neutral position. Next, let's focus on your chest. And I want you to think of your chest as 360 degrees like a piano accordion. We need to open it all up. So again, some exercises you can do is just reach up, take a big breath. And then as you breathe out, just let your hands fall behind to your side. And then we're gonna think about our shoulders. We want them to be floating just on the top of our rib cage. So again, you can kind of pull them forward, stretch them back, lift them up to your ears, and then just let them relax down by your side, and then just turn your hands in to keep them neutral. Next, let's move down to our hips. So again, most guys are either, hyperextended or too flexed. And so again, you can just move all the way forward, move all the way back, and just start getting an own sensation of kind of where your body's at. And you want to kind of, again, sit it kind of in the middle so your body's aligned. And so the next thing is think about your feet, right? You want your feet planted on the ground, shoulder width apart. Feel the gravity against them. Feel the force and the groundedness you have with the ground. And then imagine just a string just going up through the center of your body. So up through your legs, through your hips, through your chest, and just out the top of your head. And almost just imagine that string just getting pulled up, just a little bit of tension, right? So everything should be neutral. Everything should be kind of relaxed on top of each other. Then a string just kind of pulling up just a little bit. And what this does is it stops you from hyperextending, like lifting out, becoming super tense, but it also reminds you not to slouch and not be down. It's just you have this little slight pressure just pulling you up and keep you in that very neutral position. From here, your body's gonna be super optimal to be able to breathe efficiently and also project your voice. Okay, so breathing. Now that we have a good posture and our instrument is open and optimized for airflow, it's now time to think about our breathing. Our breath is quite simply the fuel to our voice. And to really reinforce this, try to talk without any air. So exhale all your air and try to say something. It's really hard. You really can't talk without that fuel. And look, I'm sure you've all heard to speak from your diaphragm, right? You get told over and over again, but it's a little confusing. I remember the first time I heard it. I'm like, what do you mean speak from my diaphragm? I kind of went back in my throat with my tone and was like, oh, I'm trying to speak from down here. And it felt really weird. So instead, what I like to think about is just breathe from your diaphragm. It's as simple as that. The whole premise behind this is we want a lot of airflow going in and out so our voice isn't pinched and soft. And we want our chest to be open and again, relaxed. So if you place a hand over the top of your chest and over your abdomen, when you breathe in, your chest shouldn't be collapsing and your abdomen should be going out and back in without too much tension. So, and another thing to keep in mind here is you might also test with both hands just sitting on your abdomen, because we don't just want your stomach getting pushed out and pulled back in. Again, think about 360. Your whole sort of diaphragm and abdomen should be opening up. And something you can test to make sure that your chest isn't collapsing is just think about when you kind of blow on a mirror or a glass to like write something in there, the same way you'd like, is just see what your chest does. Keep your hands there and just make sure your chest isn't collapsing down. And then you can go from the to then making a tone or speaking, and just making sure that, again, your chest isn't collapsing while you're doing this. Now, that's all great if you have a good posture and you're breathing efficiently, but if you're just stressed out, it's all gonna go to shit. I guarantee it. If you're in the club or you're going to approach a girl, on the street, and you start feeling yourself becoming very anxious, right? You have that typical AA, your heart starts to race, your breath becomes shallow, you become a bit more stiff, your voice goes up and cracks a little. All of this is gonna be useless. So before you even go do the approach, it's really important to go through some things that is going to help you relax and settle down. Now in the mastermind, I've actually prepared some meditations that you can do before you go out and also before you approach. I have some AA meditation that you can walk through. So it really gets to the core of the problem. It's not just about approaching anyway, going up to the girl anyway. It's dealing with the actual core issue that's causing the problem, slowing down your breath, becoming a little bit more relaxed, and then going in so you can ensure that you can keep your posture and can keep the steady breathing. Resonance. So this is a term that describes essentially where your voice is vibrating from and getting projected from. So you can resonate from your chest, from your mouth, your hard and soft palate, your nasal cavity, your head. It will produce a different sound depending on where that resonance is happening. One way to think about this is when you grab a wine glass and you run your finger around it and it starts to vibrate and make a noise. But then when you clamp down and stop that vibration, it stops the noise. So that's essentially what's happening in your body is your sound waves are bouncing off the facial structure, your chest, it's creating that tone. But if you're to occlude it or you're not optimizing it, just like the wine glass, you're gonna stop that projection, you're gonna stop the vibration and the tone itself. So we need to think about the most optimal way and place to place this resonance. So some people talk from the back of their mouth, so that might sound like this. And I'm exaggerating, or they talk from their throat. I'm obviously exaggerating this. You have people that are a little bit nasal, but essentially you want the vibration to happen through what singers call their mask. So this kind of front part of your face here. And one way you can try this out and test it a little bit is just start making some humming noises that cause a little vibration and then just note where they're coming from. So simply just and just feel. And now you can go up and down, you can move it around, and you want the vibrations to ideally be coming at, where you feel it in your lips, your teeth, and at the front. So you can go up and down, kind of feel where it's from, get an idea for this. Now, after you've done that, you can actually try open your mouth and project that noise or the tone forward and see how you go. So instead of and still make sure it's getting resonated from the right place. You might notice that you sound a little bit nasally, and that's when air's escaping and going up through your nose. So something that can help here is, say when you're about to yawn, or you swallow, you take a big breath in, what your body actually does is it occludes that airflow up to your nose. And so if you're about to yawn, and you kind of feel that, that's how you can try to start speaking. So you have that kind of stiff upper palate, you're occluding the back of your throat, and then you can speak that way and reduce any nasally noises. So I know it can be hard to kind of envision and do it for yourself, but give it a go. Twang. So this is actually what makes your voice super efficient and is great in clubs where you really want your voice to pierce through and the girl to be able to hear it. So essentially what this comes down to is you have a sphincter just after your vocal cords. And again, what it does is it kind of constricts the airflow that's going through into your mouth. So again, back to the hose analogy, is if you take a hose and the end of the nozzle, you tighten it, you have the same amount of flow of water, but it's gonna shoot a lot further. So to give an example of this, if you think about that guy from The Simpsons, right, Nelson, and I'm pretty sure it goes like, nah, something like that, right? It's that very piercing.
Okay, so twang is definitely like a harsh, piercing sound. Like you wouldn't do it on like the daily, but it's definitely a good way to build that projection within you. So when you're doing this twang sound, so like being like, it's not a nice sound. Like even it could be, but it's not the best sound. So when you're being like na 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 na, like you would do in school, it's not the best way to sound, but it's actually really good for your projection and all that kind of stuff. So if you change from being like na 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 to like yeah, you're using the same kind of pattern and going through with it. And then that way you're literally using your projection instead of using up here in your nose or anything like that.
All right, perfect. So essentially what you do is you're taking that like na 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 na, that really high pitched noise, and putting it down to something you can actually use. So if you're gonna say hey, for example, you can make that very twangy, like hey, that kind of piercing, annoying noise, and then you just bring it down, right? So hey, and now it becomes projecting and piercing, but also it sounds okay, right? It's not that annoying fucking noise. Again, some of these things can be hard to do for yourself or imagine. One thing that I found helped quite a lot is I just started imagining speaking through the girl or like lobbing my voice over her. And so I noticed even when I do these videos, right, I have a mic that's sitting right here. And on my first video, I started speaking to the mic and I started talking like this. And my voice was like in the back of my throat and it just wasn't getting projected. And so I needed to think, fuck it, I need to start speaking through the camera. And that's what I started doing. And with girls, I lob my voice through them, I project through them. And that in itself seems to fix that issue without actually thinking about the mechanics of my body, is it tends to, let's say, tighten that sphincter a little bit and cause a more efficient airflow and sound that gets projected through the club. Clarity. For people to understand you, it's not just the volume, but it's how clear you sound. You need to be able to articulate your voice. This is particularly important for non-English speakers. I've looked after a lot of students and they either come from, especially like Indian backgrounds, French backgrounds. They tend to speak super fast, don't articulate the English words that well, and the girls just don't understand them. It's like, what, huh? And the students think they're not loud enough, so now they're shouting at the girls, and the girls are still like, what? I don't understand you. And this is an issue close to my heart because I used to mumble so much. I'd be in the club, super loud, but hey, girls like, what? I'm like, why can't anyone understand me? And so what started helping is when I started speaking to a lot of foreign girls, right? A lot of European girls, and I knew they were gonna have trouble understanding English anyway. And I naturally started to articulate my words a little bit better. I started slowing down. And this is something you might need to implement with every fucking girl if this is a problem you're having. So one thing that can help are tongue twisters. So just practice these over and over, especially before going out, and it kind of trains your body to get into that mode of just articulating each word. So you can practice, right? She sells seashells by the seashore. How can a clam cram in a clean cream can? I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. Betty bought a bit of butter, but the butter Betty bought was bitter, so Betty bought a better butter.
What?
But keep in mind again to manage your stress, because your rate of speech is going to be heavily affected by that. You're going to miss your calibration, because when we're anxious and nervous, our body makes everything go a lot faster. So we're speaking super quick, but our mind is telling us that it's normal. This is a normal rate of speech. You listen to it back on like a recording, you're like, fuck, why was I speaking so fast? It's because our body lies to us. So you need to overcompensate. When you find yourself stressed and anxious, speak a lot slower than you think you have to. Even twice as slow. Because in the moment, during those stressful times, your mind is going to be telling you sound silly. You sound so fucking slow. But I guarantee to the girl, and when you record and listen back to it later, you're going to think, oh, that was just normal. So that's something that can help your rate of speech, is record and just really start to recalibrate your mind during these stressful situations. Proximity. Now this is a bit of a cheat code, especially if you're in a club that is super fucking loud, is just get closer to the girl. Now obviously if you just approach a girl, you start chatting, it's a bit weird if you just like get into her ear, you like start ear raping her and shit. She's gonna like move away, think it's creepy, find an excuse to leave. So we need to think of a more calibrated way to get a bit closer so she can hear us. So I try to project my voice as loud as I can. If she's like, what? Then simply what I do is I tell her to come closer. Now, most girls aren't gonna come closer. They're sitting there like, they don't fucking know you. Why would they? They're just like looking at you weird. But signaling to come closer, what it does is it lets her know that you're about to get closer into her to speak. Because without that, it's kind of like this weird, like they just react and it's like, get away from me. So you speak, she says, what? Tell her to come a bit closer. As you do that, you move in. Now you don't want to like lean over and peck into her ear and it feels really like needy and shit. Instead, you just take a step closer, right? Your whole body's still got the nice neutral position we were talking about before. If you need to, you might need to lean down a little bit, but for the most part, just get a bit closer, near her ear, still project your voice loudly, and she's gonna be able to hear, and you can actually save your voice this way a lot of times in set. And this is what I'll do, like I'll start off projecting super loud, holding a little bit of distance. After like a minute in the conversation, I start to get a bit closer, save my voice, and speak into her ear. Tone of your voice. So as with projection, relaxation and groundedness is super important for a great tone. That tension and anxiety might increase your tone, kind of like you're a boy in puberty, where it like breaks and goes up. As before, make sure you go through the relaxation and loosening up exercises. But for tonality, I have something specific. It's kind of like the caveman warm up, right? And so what I do is you kind of sound like a fucking gorilla, right? But I basically just bounce around, almost like I'm shadow boxing. So I'm bouncing around on the heels of my feet, and you can like tap your chest as well to help loosen it up. And I just have a very deep like, ooh, ooh, almost like a grunting noise. But be careful, you don't actually want to destroy your fucking vocal cords at the same time. So a very like light, loose, low grunting as I'm bouncing up and down. Ooh, 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 ooh. It sounds fucking stupid. I'm sure my neighbors half the time are like, what the fuck's going on next door? But that really helps to just lower my voice, relax it a little bit, right? Again, you can loosen up your jaw, yawn, you know, all those exercises. But for me, this really helps to lower that tone a little bit, which is kind of what sounds more dominant and sexy to the girl. And next, let's talk about vocal warm-ups. So I know going straight to the club, if your voice is kind of just cold and you start trying to project, instantly you'll start to feel some pain there. It'll be sore, you'll be having that puberty crack right there. So what are some ways you warm up your voice or some guys can implement before they go out?
Okay, so don't stress and think like, I can't do this, I'm not like a singer or anything like that. But something as simple as doing a lip trill, which is very hard for some doing like on their own, so you could just be like, but if not, you can hold your cheeks, and that obviously like, it honestly does make it easier. So you can be like, and it's a bit of a trill. And then that way you're like, honestly, you're opening up your vocal cords and making them all like smooth and stuff like that. And you can also do it on a so you can do a slide. So you can be like and that will like honestly open up your vocal cords and make them feel like they're ready to go.
All right, so essentially you're just warming up different ranges, right? So
yeah. Say it, like honestly, say if you went to a club and you didn't do any of these exercises, if you're using that kind of like, if you're like trying to yell in a club or anything like that, it's really hard and it's really bad on your vocal cords and stuff like that. But if you do them exercises before you go, I know it might be annoying, like it does help. It honestly does. If you're getting ready, just quickly do some little
some quick literals.
It will help. And then when you're trying to talk to that girl in the club and you're trying to use your full projection and trying to full talk to them without sounding like a little girl, like it honestly helps.
Perfect. Sounds good. So guys, I don't have enough time to go through every single tone and how to master in this video, but what I have done is I've put together something in our mastermind. Now you can access this right away, link down below, 2-week free trial. You can literally sign up, check out that video, other content, and leave within 2 weeks and not pay a fucking cent, right? So in that video, I've gone through 15 tonalities to use in game to really get good at storytelling, to really be able to captivate the girl in these interactions. And I'm gonna explain why that advice of never use the seeking rapport tonality and always speak with a downward inflection is gonna fuck up your game. And how when you learn to actually change that and change your mindset around that and use these 15 tones, you're gonna start having super engaging conversations. Girls are gonna call you charismatic, they're gonna say they just love listening to you. And that video is gonna be in the mastermind completely for free. You can go check it out, links down below. If you wanna check out other videos, I'm gonna put one here and here as always. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. We'll give you more content in the coming weeks. Hit the bell icon if you want to be notified about that. And otherwise, any comments, questions, as always, post them down below. I'll get back to you all. All right, peace, take care. So guys, for those that don't know, we filmed this whole fucking video. And then I walked over to the camera, I was like, I was not recording a thing of that. It was just, so we're like, oh fuck, let's do it again. The first one was way better. She sung for like 4 minutes, it was amazing, it was great.